To discuss this further with CNN political commentator Angela Rye, former executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus, and Carl Higbie, a Donald Trump supporter and former Navy SEAL. Carl, you know, look, we were sitting here watching the comments together from this white supremacist group, and I think we both had the same reaction. This is garbage. You know, it's racist Nazi garbage that we heard from them over the weekend. So why not just say that if you're the Trump team?
I mean, look, these people are idiots. You and I both, I mean, our faces, we both gave the thumbs down when it came on. But the fact is like, Donald Trump has said this. He said, like, look, I don't endorse these people. I don't even support them. In fact, I denounce them. And if he wants to run around every single time some moron comes out and throws up his right hand and says, you know, I'm for, you know, white America or whatever, he's going to spend his entire presidency trying to respond to stupid people. Let's move forward. Let's stop worrying about all this crap. I mean, look, these people are idiots. That's what it comes down to.
They're doing it blocks from the White House. They were doing it in his name.
Right.
And when asked specifically about it, they released a statement, you know, has continued to denounce racism.
Right. David
Gergen last night, he doesn't have a dog in this fight. It's called that a namby-pamby response to something that was hateful.
Yeah, well, look, you know, Hillary Clinton took $20,000 from some of these same white supremacist people.
It's not about Hillary Clinton right now.
But it's not.
Donald Trump is
the
going to
fact
be the
is,
president of the United States, and he's being asked about people who said anti-Semitic, racist, Nazi stuff.
Yeah, so
John?
I wouldn't call him out by name because you're just going to validate him. I would keep saying, look, stop this garbage, stop being stupid.
Angela?
So I think what's really interesting here is that, one, we continue to find space for Hillary Clinton, and no surprises here. Of course, she won the popular vote. But what I would say to you is we've watched Donald Trump denounce people. We've watched him denounce groups. We've seen him denounce Saturday Night Live. We've seen him denounce the New York Times. We've seen him denounce Hamilton the musical. But yet he can't find it in his heart. He can't find the gall to denounce white supremacist groups. He couldn't find the gall on with our colleague, John, Jake Tapper, to denounce David Duke. Of course, he rebuked him, as he said later on, a few days later. But the reality of it is he continues to lack the ability, the courage to stand up to white nationalism, white supremacy, and racism in this country. Part of the reason for it is because Donald Trump's very business record has been built on some of these things. Perhaps it wasn't intentional racism, but it was a racist impact, whether we're talking about the Department of Justice settlement twice, whether we're talking about the ways in which he's treated black employees. He ushered them off of the floor in a Trump casino. He's talked about a black accountant being lazy, and the only guy he wanted counting his money, or guys he wanted counting his money, guys, by the way, were guys with yarmulkes. This is a man who has a demonstrated problem with disavowing racism, with denouncing it, and he's in fact embraced it. It is time for the president-elect to turn the corner, to turn the page, and to do something different. As you just heard from your last guest, 700 incidents of hate crime, of hate incidents, of harassment. John, I don't know about you, but my Twitter feed is a really good example of that. All since he was elected. It is high time for him to do something courageous and to no longer stand on the backs of these people who are enraged and need someone to blame. This is not their country that they're taking back. This is land that we took from other people, and it's time for us to start embracing the fact that this is a melting pot, perhaps even jambalaya, because we're all different and we need to embrace those differences.
So, Carl, one of the things that people like about Donald Trump is that he speaks his mind and he's not afraid to use blunt talk. And when he's talking about Islamic terror, for instance, Donald Trump makes a point saying, call it what it is. Call it radical Islamic terror, which is something a lot of people agree with. Why, why dancing around the terminology here? So why is he so willing to campaign on calling terrorism radical Islamic terrorism, but he won't sit there and say that this group, which says it supports me, is a bunch of Nazis or racists?
Probably because he's too busy calling out the same people that are marching down the streets, tearing down local businesses. Probably too busy, taking care of people that are, shooting our cops in the street. I mean, look, these people are morons. They're idiots, okay? But we are the Republican Party. We're the party that freed the slaves. We're the party of Martin Luther King. We're the party that wants people to...
You're not the party of Martin Luther King.
Yeah,
You're
actually, he was a Republican.
No,
you should probably do your history check.
My history is clear. Your history is ass backwards. What I will tell you is this, very plain and simple.
Okay.
Yes,
it is. Republican parties are not the ones that passed the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment?
Let me help you. And the Republican Party is not the party of the 13th and 14th Amendment anymore. Your party is now one of oppression. Your party is the one that is pushing forth voter suppression legislation all throughout this country. Your party is the one that helped to ensure that Shelby versus Holder would gut the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Your party is the one in Pennsylvania where a GOP legislator said that these laws were put in place to ensure that Republicans would would win back House, the Senate, the presidency. Let's be clear about what it is. Your party is living and thriving off of oppression.
Absolutely
Perhaps
not.
you were the party of anti-slavery and abolition back in the day, but that is not who you are today, sir. You're not going to do that today.
No, you know what it is that 175 years ago, largely Democrats traded a steady stream of labor and housing, or housing and food in exchange for labor. Now that same Democratic Party seeks to share that same exchange of housing and food, vouchers and affordable housing in exchange for a steady stream of votes. The Democratic Party seeks to divide. Yeah, the Democratic Party seeks to divide and keep this country guessing for them, playing for them. And the Republican Party wants to have people with their eyes on the horizon achieving as much as they can, and that's what Donald Trump represents. When you look at the New York City skyline, you see achievement. You see Donald Trump's achievement, and he wants every American to be able to achieve the same thing. The Democratic Party wants to keep you dependent on them.
No, on the backs of poor people. John, I have to respond to this. On the backs of poor people. You're talking about a Donald Trump that refused to pay contractors. You're talking about a Donald Trump who used immigration laws and abused immigration laws to build these same buildings. You just compared what Democrats have done, whatever that is, to slavery. You're saying that Democrats and the fact that people are not who and what they should be, they haven't been able to economically thrive in this country, you're comparing them to slaves? If you want to talk about that, let's talk about economic inequality and what your candidate is going to do to address some of that. Part of the real issue here, Carl, is the fact that he won't denounce white supremacy until white folks
has. How many times do you want him to do it?
No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. And
Not
he hasn't
this
even
time.
tweeted about it. That's how he uses everything else. But until he goes on a platform and says, this is not the path for our future, we will not be able to benefit off of the backs of poor people and continue to push this type of racist propaganda. We need to call it for what it is. The very people who you're talking about, who you think are looking for free gifts and handouts, are people who have been disenfranchised since they got off the slave ship in this country. And until you recognize that and pay for that, we're going to continue to have this
now
problem.
we're going to pay for it. Now you want us to pay for it.
Yeah, there should be reparations. I'm happy to have that conversation, but I'm sure there's not enough time.
That is the most ridiculous, un-American statement I've ever heard.
Oh, there's nothing un-American about reparations.
So do you want white people to pay black people for the response to slavery?
No, I think that's a really dumbed down way of talking about it. I think it's an actual really intellectual
So what do you
conversation
propose? How do we make this better? Let's solve the world's problems.
I'm happy to talk about their housing proposals. There are ways to. I knew we didn't have time for it, John.
No, it's not that we don't have time for it. I think we have shifted a little far afield.
I agree. But we went down this road talking about blaming Democrats for slavery, which is a favorite Republican talking point, and it is wrong. Racism is to blame for slavery.
Both of you condemn this meeting that happened over the weekend.
Absolutely.
Right, a point of agreement.
Both of you think it was hateful rhetoric.
Yes.
Yes.
Racist, anti-Semitic stuff, and both of you are perfectly willing to say it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's good, and I don't think you can ever say it too much, and I don't think our leaders, frankly, ever can say it too much. So, Carl Higbee, Angela Rye, appreciate you being here. A thoughtful discussion. You brought up a lot of subjects. I hope we get a chance to talk about a lot of this at greater length coming up.
Thank you,
guys.
John.